I haven't seen that movie, Kyle. Madagascar? I missed it. But while we're on the topic, Kyle, you reminded me of something that you said many months ago. DarbyCast Wildcard Friday. Kyle and I were just talking about animated films and that some of them are okay. Astute observation, Kyle. Very keen eye for things that are okay is what you possess. Good job, Kyle. But it reminded me of Madagascar. What happens there? What is it all about? Do people even live there? And if they do, would they mind implementing the idea that I'm about to throw down? Okay. Kyle, we hashed this out in minimal detail. So there's going to be a whole lot of on-the-fly stuff that I drop that is not really going to gel with people. Okay. Sometimes, DarbyCast doctors, when you're working out an idea, you got to just shoot from the hip and see what lands. In my case, when I shoot from the hip, it's almost all headshots, kind of a John Wick style thing. And right now, there's probably some angry lefty listening to this and saying, I hate Keanu Reeves. And it's like, fuck you. Right? But Madagascar, it's a large landmass, and I am thinking that it needs to be utilized in a way that's more profound than it is maybe right now. We're going to do kind of a trading spaces style deal. Kyle, look up the population of Madagascar. I'm hoping it's pretty low. But here's what we're going to do. And I would love to make a reality show out of this and then teach it in school in the United States forever. Like every year. Make it a part of the curriculum. Increase the intensity year over year. Because you don't want to give the kids more than they can chew. On the Madagascar educational reality show. That is what? The American political left moves to Madagascar. Oh, boy, did that just wash over all of us. Breath of fresh air, wind in our sails, cold drink of water, a Capri Sun of information. How good was Capri Sun? Okay, and a pack of Gushers? No problems with that. None whatsoever. Fruit by the foot or fruit roll up? Okay. Different flavors, different levels of appropriateness in a lot of ways. Right, Kyle? But let's continue. I want the lefties of the country and the world who are on this ceaseless harassment campaign of honest, decent people in the United States and Europe. I want them to have a shot at making all of their dreams a reality. The problem is, I don't want them doing it here. And so when we're making this show, you kind of got to give them the option. You say, listen, you can either go make this educational reality series in Madagascar, or I'll catch you in Valhalla, if you catch my drift. One way or another, you will no longer be here. And that's fair based on the way things have been going, right? These traitors and war criminals, pedophiles, terrible, psychopathic individuals that have been tormenting the masses. This is actually a pretty benevolent proposition, is it not, Kyle? It is. I'm a good dude. But you take all the hardcore lefties who really believe in what they're talking about, and you say, all right, Madagascar it is. And then we'll take all the Madagascarians, Kyle, I don't know if I'll ever get this right, even if I saw it written on a piece of paper. Too many syllables, and it doesn't matter to me that much to get this right. However, we're going to ship all the politicians, all the media executives, journalists, You bet your ass. Anyone who has been imposing radical social Marxist ideology on the population, public school teachers, a vast majority of them, you will no longer be complaining about not enough vacation time because this one is on the American taxpayer. Do you realize how prosperous the American economy would be if we just took all these idiots and shipped them somewhere else and then gave them an internet infrastructure that they couldn't post outside of Madagascar? Like their posts wouldn't reach the outside world. They would have to just communicate amongst themselves. They couldn't harass and torment people who have been nothing but tolerant of them. Violence is on the rise in the country. We've seen it. It doesn't make our hearts sing, but we do understand it, right? It's one of those things where it's like, golly, all these tragedies happening, son of a bitch. I'm surprised it hasn't happened on a wider scale much sooner than now. That's kind of where I go. I'm not rooting for it, but I'm just like, all right, yeah, this makes actually plenty of sense to me. You've raped and pillaged a country that was full of free, vibrant, and spiritually sound people, made them hate each other, and are now telling them that they are, in fact, the biggest hurdle to quote-unquote progress that's ever existed. I want you to have your progress, you satanic demon folk, and I want you to have it in Madagascar. That's where it's going to go down. You can't take anything with you, okay? You just take those great ideas and guaranteed they're going to make a great civilization, right? Take the victim class out of the United States and send them to Madagascar. Why not? Honestly, that seems like a fiscally sound idea. This is almost like an economics Wednesday, but it's on a wild card Friday. Not really a big problem there at all. So long as we're getting the information out into the universe, then people start musing on this idea and be like, why haven't we sent the entire staff of CNN to Madagascar to do some journalism over there? And then lock them in a digital isolation chamber where their nonsense can never reach the eyes and ears of a sane person ever again. Wouldn't that be incredible if like everybody who was like an emotional, ideological terrorist, if they just left? Like, what would that even look like? What did ancient societies do with psychopaths, Kyle? They killed them, right? They strung them up and they said, nope, we've had too much of you. We can't really allow you to keep stealing, raping, murdering. That's not really good for anyone. We know you like doing those things, but we don't like it. So you can either choose exile or death. Madagascar sounds really great, right? But it doesn't have to be Madagascar. It could be Sri Lanka. And we would take the locals and we'd resettle them somewhere. And then we would take the elephants and rescue them. But it has to be an island, right? And it can't be Australia. Australia is too sweet to ruin further with these people. In fact, there's a lot of these folks in Australia that will need to be sent off to the reality show set, because we're going to rig the whole thing with cameras, and it will be a masterclass for future generations on why to never allow people cut from the cloth that these people are to occupy any position of power or influence, or really just operate, period, as they are fundamentally incapable, it would appear, at interacting and interfacing with a civil society and contributing in a way that like elevates the people around them, maybe reduces the suffering of the people around them. Now, it doesn't seem like that's really part of the program. In fact, it seems as though the exact opposite, okay, Kyle, is taking place. That these delightful demon folk, they get off on draining people's energy, their very life force. And I'm fine with them doing that to each other. Just don't do it to my people, right? It's over. Like, where's that been, right? You know, Joe Biden gave a really interesting speech the other day. I'm surprised he can even walk around, that they're letting him speak. But he was saying, he's like, enough, for God's sakes, enough about gun violence. And I'm just saying that about people on the ideological left. Enough of you influencing other people's lives. Is this so wrong? No. Right. Very good. Glad we all arrived at that conclusion. We haven't talked about time travel in a while. Let me just kind of pivot a little bit. Can you imagine bringing any kind of president of years past to the future and being like, we carried out your vision. Everybody's sucking each other off and people are not having kids and people are addicted to a lot of different things. Yeah, we have this new drug and it's not even physiological in nature. It's digital. Here you go, Abe Lincoln. Would you like to watch some HD porn on this magical device? It's a phone. You'd say, what's a phone? You say, shut up, Abe. You don't know a damn thing. At least that's what people on the left would tell Abe Lincoln. I would respect the shit out of him. I'd give him a sturdy handshake. I'd say, Abe, things are really messed up right now. What would you do if you were in the shoes of somebody who noticed that things weren't headed in the right direction? You talk to any president of years past, like, let's say you got to go about 60, 70 years into the past and you talk to a president. They would be astounded if you showed them a video, like a 10-minute video of like what the world is now. You know what their question to you would be? Like, so why are you putting up with this? And that's such a good question. It's such a good question. It's like too good a question. It's very simple. It's direct. Why are you putting up with this? And that is when you actually clap back at a guy like Honest Abe and you say, no. Listen, we actually do have a solution. It came from a podcast called the DarbyCast. He'd have a stroke right then and there because he wouldn't know anything that you were saying. Podcast, DarbyCast. But you say, hey, yeah, Abe, we know what we need to do. We need to ship off all the traitors to a prison island used for studying tyranny. We have like the most advanced, intelligent, destructive psychopaths the world's ever seen, Abe. And he'd say, what does that mean? You say, Abe, evildoers. Okay. Liars, cheats, swindlers. We could have done this for a fraction of the cost of COVID measures. We could have taken everybody and been like, you're getting a free vacation. But instead, we ushered in a golden era of scientific medical authoritarianism. Oops, right? You got to learn from your mistakes as an individual and as a country. You got to own up and say, we have been messing up in a pretty substantial way. We let a lot of people into this party who don't respect the House. They don't like the food. They don't like us. Why did we continue to listen to these complaining fucks who are not satisfied by anything? That seems a bit silly now, doesn't it? Bunch of self-righteous, insatiable crazies. Why were we listening to them again? Because they would call us mean names if we gave them pushback? That seems like a small price to pay for getting the collective sanity of the country back, on the rails. Sometimes you have to endure being called names by your mortal enemies. Surprise, surprise. Listen, when the reality show starts picking up and we start doing the casting calls, so to speak, there's going to be a lot of name calling. But that, to use a baseball term, I don't even like baseball, is what's called a sac fly. You kind of take the shot so you can drive some runs home. The runs being the country regaining its identity as a place of hope, promise, high ethics, a lot of literacy, creative achievement, harmony, a love for nature, and a disdain for the devil. Where's that been? I know a lot of lefties in this country don't really respect anything, themselves, their ancestors, anything like that. But if there are any crazy lefties listening to this, think about your grandparents for a second. Now think about how ashamed they would be of the way that you have gone along with things to avoid being called names. Goodness gracious, would they be beside themselves with disgust? Follow me on this. You go back with a time machine to like World War I times, actually pre-World War I. Get a bunch of bros. You'd be like, hey, I need you guys to take off your belts and beat a ton of people into a place of rationality. If they won't accept it, we're going to send them to Sri Lanka or Madagascar. Naturally, this will confuse these people. However, transparency is a big part of what I believe in, and I want to keep these people in the know. Let's get an army of high ethics Americans from the early 1900s, transport them to the present, have them issue beatings and verbal shamings until we can get these psychos onto planes and boats and get them to the set, right? Most of these people, these lefties, they have pathological needs for attention. So you tell them that they're going to star in a show and they're not going to ask any questions. Goodness gracious, they're not going to ask a single question. Yes, we've chartered a plane for you because you're so special and amazing. And then the Madagascar or Sri Lankan TV show takes the fuck off. Wouldn't that be a wild thing to watch? If it were live streamed, that'd be the most watched show on the planet. As these perverted, violent, vicious psychopaths just ate each other alive. And then the U.S. became itself again. And then we all learned the lesson and patted ourselves on the back and said, never again, never again. Nope, we are not going to bring people here who don't appreciate anything at all in the world. No, we're not going to bring people here who hate us and subsidize their programs with tax dollars. I think we should avoid that in the future. When did that become a novel idea? Some people would say that the DarbyCast is full of pretty extreme thoughts, when really, the way that I think is very much just like a normal person from a couple decades ago. Not the creative side of me. I get that. I get that I'm out there when it comes to creative imagery and all that. But my general attitudes and values tend to be rooted in not even like a deep conservatism, but like just a couple decades ago. Be like, things were not broken. They did not need to be fixed. And the cure for all of these quote unquote problems, the way things are going, let me put it to you like this. The country is receiving chemo and we didn't have cancer. And it's been going like that for a long time. And you wonder why all the systems of the country are shutting down. It's because we're being poisoned and then being told that the cancer is getting worse and we're just about to solve it. We just need more poison and then it'll be great. Abe Lincoln would not know a whole lot about chemo, but I tell you what he would know about is handling problems and actually identifying what a problem is and then coming up with a solution based on the problem, not on a fake problem with a very real set of solutions, right? White guys are evil, so we need to do all these things to thwart them. Has that been the issue? But yeah, who's going to fund this, you ask? The lefties are going to fund it themselves. Oh, we ain't funding this. They've stolen more than enough. Money, people's lives, people's sense of peace, calm. If anything, this is letting a lot of people off pretty easy. Like, listen, you've been perpetrating crimes against humanity for decades. And in fact, there is no death painful enough to suit your wrongdoings. You should be rejoicing at this, you idiot. But they won't go for it. They won't go for the reality show. Why? Because they need to gorge themselves on the pain of others. That is how the lefty operates. Incapable of creation, hellbent on destruction. Equality for the lefty has never been about elevating others. It's been tearing others down to the lowest common denominator. All while preaching some odd doctrine of niceness. Wouldn't it be nice if this happened? Wouldn't it be nice if everybody was great? Wouldn't it be nice if everybody was well fed? Wouldn't it be nice if everybody was healthy? Wouldn't it be nice if everybody felt good all the time about themselves? I guess, but that is not a policy implementation whodunit. That is like a personal life responsibility whodunit that's really on the individual and those around them. Man, the doctrine of niceness. Wouldn't that be funny to just give no opposition to that and just say, all right, do all your nice stuff with one another, but do it in Sri Lanka. We'll get the elephants out of there and the Sri Lankans, we'll just resettle them. It'll be fine. And let me just say this to anybody who's not totally bought in. Studies have shown and experts agree that this is a good idea. Do you need any more convincing than that? I don't think you do. You've been convinced of weirder shit by somebody uttering that statement alone. Take all the chicks who want to just murder their babies. Take all the gun grabbers. Take all the people who are rooting for Amber Heard in that trial. Send them to Madagascar. Send them to Sri Lanka. This is a hell of an offer. And really, it should be instituted immediately. Full send on this reality show, right, Kyle? I don't know how long we've been recording. I'm just going to tap this off, Kyle. We can't really publish this. We'll be considered extremists. Hell, we already are. Who cares? Send it, Kyle.